This is happening in February 2025. Set. A true video recording of the Strait of Metro in the southern tip. The photographer is a father. It's his son in the shot being hooded. The process of sucking into the saw. The water was calm. Suddenly the sea swelled up behind him. No warning. There's a huge shadow opening up. In the next second, people and ships disappear at the same time, surrounded by surging waters and constantly closed flesh wall. After a few seconds, the water exploded. He was sprayed out in one piece, fall back to the sea. Facing such a scene, you almost instinctively make the next judgment. Whales are so big, of course he can swallow a man in his stomach. But is there anyone who is not so lucky? Really swallowed into the belly of a whale? Legend has it that those who live by lighting lights in Beijing clothes. The story of waiting for rescue. Is it a myth or a truth? This is Juoshi Channel. This time, we're going to follow that open sentence. To actually enter the whale's mouth. Are you ready? Here we go. Long before humans had modern marine science, such a picture has already appeared in the legend. In the ancient Bible, Jonah was swallowed by a fish. I spent 3 days and 3 nights in my belly. The end of European fairy tales. Pinot meets in the belly of a whale. Lost farther, Geppetto lives in the dark to keep warm. Sailors of the nautical age also passed it on by word of mouth. It is said that someone was swallowed whole by the fragrance. He was cut open and rescued. These stories span religions. Myths and fairy tales keep repeating the same score. A man can be swallowed whole by a whale god. In modern times, this engulfing moment does happen. But the ending is different from the legend. 2019 in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. Immigrants see sightseeing to the island when the whale opens its mouth to swallow the sardines, being sucked into the mouth with water. He was sprayed back to the surface almost immediately, covered in seawater and scales, and in the roar, temporary loss of direction. But despite the fright and minor bruises, he wasn't bitten or severely injured. 2020 California coast. 2 kayaking enthusiasts had the same terrifying moment. A feeding humpback whale rises from the water. Wrap them in the saw with the school of fish. After a few seconds, they are thrown back to the sea in the sun. The 2 gasped violently. The arms and shoulders are lifted by the water in a colorful manner. But stay awake. Soon self-discount ships. And at the beginning of the film, in this even more thrilling accident in 2025, Adrian Simankers is alone in front of his father's camera. Skinny topic. Suddenly a huge back broke through the water. Draw it into the saw. After a few seconds, he was completely spit out again. Connect the kayak and resurface together. Wait until you confirm that you can still breathe. When the limbs are active, I realized I was almost unscathed, leaving only intense panic and a sticky illusion of being touched by a giant. Different from fairy tales, these survivors don't seem to have had time to enter the capital. It came out of your stomach. Well known, Nanjing is known on Earth, the largest living animal. Adult individuals can exceed 30 meters in length. It weighs nearly 150 tons. A tongue weighs as much as an elephant. The heart is the size of a car. When he opened his mouth, the oral volume can reach tens of cubic meters. Enough to swallow a whole fish with seawater. From the outside, it was almost like an underwater cave that suddenly opened. When you look at this huge entrance, keep moving inward. The scale will suddenly tighten. Like a humpback whale, false alarm feeding patterns like blue and gray whales. Although not chewing, but it's not like swallowing the prey whole with water. He swallows a lot of seawater first, then use the warp to squeeze out the water. Through, it's got to be a nutty, flexible protein. It's called keratin. This is the same composition as human hair and nails, and they arrange them like combs on plates. After its filtration of seawater, it leaves little bits of food like prawns. Behind the saw that can hold a boat. Connected is an exception. Narrow throat passage. It's incredible. The diameter of this channel, usually only a dozen to more than 20 centimeters. About the size of an adult's fist. Maximum expansion to less than 40 cm. Just enough to get past big fish and clumps of prey. Much smaller than the shoulder width of an adult. Mouth space avenue like a garage. But the passage to the stomach is like a mouse. Hole, so they don't need to swallow. Devour large prey. Even if the false alarm is forcibly swallowed, the body becomes a foreign object stuck at the entrance. Like a hard bone mixed with delicious food. Facing such an obligation, the whale will instinctively put it. Spit it out quickly. That's why survivors describe the feeling of darkness. Squeeze roll. Then it is suddenly thrown out of the wall or spewed out of the water. What if a person gets stuck in the throat of a whale? Is it possible to pass the whale? The fumaroles on the top of the head are sprayed out. You may have had this experience. Choking or sneezing suddenly while eating rice. You squirt through your nostrils. And for whales, such an outcome is almost impossible. We all know that. Whales actually use their lungs. Through the breathing hole on the top of the head with the outside world, the air is connected to breathe. Although inside the virtual crystal, breathe and enter, food is not to completely unrelated tubes. Respiratory system and digestive system. The system will meet in the throat area behind the false alarm mouth. This is actually similar to humans. The difference lies in recent discoveries. Through anatomical research, we see whales have evolved a whole set of valve structures. You can make these two channels in different states. The state is precisely switched. When goldfish eat, oral cavity, the posterior muscular structure and the so-called oral gills will fall. Seal the passage between the mouth and throat. Prevent seawater and prey from washing into the respiratory tract. This is the passage between the breathing hole and the lungs. Still open. Does not affect breathing. And when he's done filtering a lot of seawater, when you need to swallow food, this structure will lift. Let the food enter the esophagus and continue to move towards the stomach. Meanwhile, above, the stomata, the airway to the lungs, are closed again. It feels like being at a crossroads. Precise control of two perpendicular to each other. Traffic flow in the direction. Make sure it passes without a fatal collision. That is to say, the whale breathes and swallows. You can only choose one of the states. And whales have very large and rigid airways. Theory, difficult for humans to cope with severe coughing. Sneeze to try to expel foreign bodies from the trachea. If a large foreign body does break into the respiratory tract, it's not going to be what it looks like in the movie, sprayed out of the fumarole. On the contrary, foreign objects will block the airflow. The whales rapidly develop severe hypoxia, even life-threatening. And that rarely happens. And in our minds, the droplets of water from the whale's fumarole. The source is the air in the lungs, brings up the water from the surface when exhaled forcefully. It's essentially one big, fast breath. It's not about waking up the nose or waking up the water in the body, the act of flushing a foreign body out of the airway. So the spirit can only spit people out of their mouths, but it's impossible to spray people out of their nostrils. The legend says that the man lived by lighting a lamp in the capital. The story of waiting for rescue, is it completely false? The reason why legends recur mostly implies the existence of realistic prototypes. There is also a tissue in all energy. They weren't the biggest, but it can theoretically swallow the whole. The capabilities of the human body, that's our old friend flavor. After all, spice essence can swallow Beihai chrysanthemum medicine, the existence of Kraken. Since a giant squid of more than 10 meters, you can enter the ink fragrance essence affiliated middle school, which means his throat is wide enough. You can actually let a person through. In 1891, at a distance from Argentina, about 500 kilometers east of the Falkland Islands, British whaling in the sea, ship Eastern Star drops 2 dinghies, chasing a giant sharpened whale. Just after inserting several kinds of ink-scented whales into the well, whale picked up from the sea, smashed one of the dinghies directly. Most of Dew's crew were rescued, but 2 people are missing. One of them is 21-year-old crew member James Spartley. Shortly after, the whale died, spread by the helmet. As the crew prepared for autopsy, they found the belly of the whale is wriggling. After the knife edge is cut, a leg and pants was cut out of it. Battery, who has been missing for a long time, is still alive. It is said that he spent about 15 hours in Gyeongfazong. The gastric juices bleached his skin into a sickly mess. All white body hair falls out. Almost blind in both eyes. He was in chaos for 2 weeks. Until a month later, I can barely explain what I've been through. When he fell into the sea, saw closed overhead. The body is rolled over the rough teeth. Then slide your feet down a slippery passage. Eventually fall into a place full of stench and heat. Before going into a coma, he was still trying his best to lift the ball, soft but constantly squirming inner walls. A survivor whose real name is modern-day Jonah. He never went to sea again. It is said that he lived another 18 years, died at the age of 39. If you are smart, you will find that the deserts of this world. Oxygen from nowhere. Someone made a bold conjecture about this back then. My essence takes a deep breath before diving. Large amounts of oxygen are stored in the muscles and blood. Partly, is it because of this oxygen being brought into the body? He miraculously survived the darkness. In fact, fairy tales are separated by adventure, Pinocchio and nearby Sister Berto. Also in the belly of the sperm whale. The food swallowed by a whale lives for several days. Then if a person is really swallowed by the grinding essence, what will happen? So let me start with a conclusion. It is almost impossible for humans to survive inside a whale. Suppose the most extreme scenario occurs. People fall into the water. A preying ink-scented whale rushed in from below. Saw opening. Connect you to Seawater 1000 and swallow it in your mouth. First second, you are swept into the darkness by the sea and the school of fish. Although my hometown was surprised, but he doesn't eat by choice. Faces are often several meters long, soft body, strong escapability, in the darkness hundreds of meters or even thousands of meters deep. Giant stars in the sea. Thief. My flavor strategy is to rush straight up. He uses his teeth to catch his prey. Swallow whole. Without biting and decomposing like a shark. That is to say, you'll push down your throat by the current. Keep the body intact. But you are under intense menstruation and in tumbling currents. It's easy to inhale instinctively, causes a lot of choking. It will be difficult for you to take another breath of intact air later. A lot of people, you will start to feel dizzy more than 10 seconds after choking on water. About 30 seconds, most people have lost control of their body movements. There is a high probability of disappearing consciousness within 1 to 2 minutes. More than 4 minutes, there may be irreversible damage to the brain. My golden stone path is not an empty passage. It's a muscle tube that's constantly squirming and contracting, like a hand squeezing its prey. Push it down. Mixed with seawater, slime, and swallowed prey. No air gun. There is no room for people to stop and breathe. That is to say, before it actually enters the stomach, the person is likely to have passed out due to hypoxia. Suppose you are extremely lucky, was pushed into the stomach before losing consciousness. You will be the first to enter his first position. The location of the fragrance is an urban structure. The first of these is muscular arms, which are very thick, used to mechanically crush swallowed prey. My gold-encrusted first is not like a human microbrew. Full of strong acid, it's more like a giant muscle sack. It's completely dark inside, it's close to body temperature. Air is almost non-existent. Shrinking all around, flip air pressure, even if people are still alive. Already in a state of severe hypoxia. The lungs start to fill with water, consciousness fades rapidly. And then we get to real digestion. Subsequent feeding is secreted by the glands, chemical digestion. At this stage, if the person still has vital signs, it's going to be an acidic environment. Combined with chemical stimuli such as digestive enzymes, it quickly corrodes your skin. Heat, humidity, and strong irritating harmful gases, including your whole body. The breath taken before applying the essence to the water will not arrive here. The stomach and lungs that apply flavor are also two systems. Air only passes through the respiratory system. Store oxygen in your own blood and muscles for self-diving metabolism. Therefore, oxygen will not. It's stored in the stomach in the form of empty air sacs. The whole process is likely to be over in a few minutes. So there are stories that go around. Someone stayed in the capital for more than 10 hours. He was rescued after several days. In modern physiology, hardly a realistic possibility. Although in theory, it is possible for people to be swallowed into the belly of the fragrance. However, scientists have estimated that the probability of swallowing a human is 1 in 100,000. After all, such encounters are extremely rare. The vast majority of people, I will never have the opportunity to see the truth in my life. Solid ink essence. Although flavors are widely distributed around the world, but they mainly live far away. The high seas of the coastline, and often at depths of more than 3 kilometers, carry out martyrs activity, so even if people are on the sea, the probability of being attacked by whales is also extremely low. But turn the perspective upside down, it's completely different. Every year, hundreds of thousands of whales have died from human activities. There are reports estimating there are about 20,000 whales each year. Death or serious injury due to ship collision. Among them are large whales such as blue whales, wrong-way whales, gray whales, and others have been particularly affected, and this terrifying number may still be underestimated. Whales do too many accidents. The body will sink directly to the bottom of the sea undetected. Some of them were hit by high-speed ships, resulting in ruptured internal organs and shattered bones. Some are entangled in fishing nets and cables, carrying a rope for months, ultimately due to infection, starvation, or suffocation. Some are exposed to long-term underwater noise, lost or even stranded. Others are caused by plastics and pollutants entering the body. Chronic poisoning. What you may not know is, on a longer time scale, business was systematically emptying the ocean. Only the 20th century, more than 2 million whales have been killed. They're used for grease, meat, and industrial raw materials. In comparison, the first episode of humans being swallowed by whales goes to sea. Whales are harmed by humans, but a reality that persists for hundreds of years. Even seemingly innocuous close-up spectators can put whales under tremendous stress. Too close, chase shoot. The only route will interfere with their myopia. Migration and exchange. So keep your distance, not to protect humans from whales. It's a clearing for the whales to sigh and live in. When one day, if you come across these huge figures at sea, the safest and most correct course of action, just watch from a distance. Don't disturb him. Anyway, humans, the chances of breaking into a whale's mouth are slim to none. The risk of whales dying at the hands of humans, but always real. If you are also passionate about the expansion of human boundaries, blood welcome, like, subscribe. Leave a message in the comment area. Also welcome to Watch Me, channel about human deep sea. Other videos explored. We will continue to track every step of the human exploration process. Internship here, unexpected things. Decoding human romance with vision. See you on your next expedition.